Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Classic Comics. And this is going to be my review of Terminator Dark Fate. And wow, this is going to cover a lot of ground. So, okay, so we'll start with just a quick summary of this movie. And if you're going to go see it, then you may want to just bail out after that because I'm going to spoil everything here. So basically, this film is a mashup of T1 and T2, with the main characters changed to females and a lot of woke current year politics thrown in. So if you're down for that, then you will like this movie. Okay, so that's it. If you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead and dive out now because I'm going to get into the spoilers. So the film starts with Sarah and John Connor shortly after T2. They're at a beach in Guatemala, and then an Arnie Terminator shows up out of nowhere and kills John Connor and then leaves. And that's it. So this scene basically makes the first two Terminators just kind of pointless. Now, to be fair, the de-aging effects in these scenes are great. It's the best I've seen yet. Linda Hamilton looks just like she did 20 years ago. And the young Edward Furlong is totally convincing too. But this scene really gives it away. The scene gives away that this whole franchise has just become pointless. And how is this Terminator even still around? It was made by Skynet. Now, they stopped that future from occurring in T2, so Skynet was never created. So this Terminator came from a future that no longer exists. So how is it even still around? Shouldn't it just have ceased to exist? I mean, and this is just the beginning of how frustrating this friggin' movie is. All right, then we jump to present day, and right off we get a scene where the new female protagonist arrives in the present. She's this female soldier from the future, so she arrives in the present. The first thing she does is fall off a bridge. Now, there's a young couple that's making out nearby. The girl wants to go help her, but the guy is scared to. He's hesitant to do it, and immediately the girl kind of scolds him to come and help her and see if she's okay. So immediately, in the opening seconds, we're already getting brave women, women who are stunning and brave, and men who are hesitant or ineffectual. Anyway, then we get the usual bit where she, steals somebody's clothes in a vehicle and takes off. Then we meet Danny Reyes. She's a teenager in Mexico City, and she basically runs her family's household. Even though, she's 16. The father is basically like her child. She treats him almost like a son. And then she goes to work. She works at this factory, which the workers there are being replaced by automation because, messaging, as if we didn't already know this is about artificial intelligence and all that. Then, and also then the new Terminator, arrives from the future as well. This new Terminator, which is called a Rev 9, which sounds like some kind of douchey DJ to me, but, okay, fine. And the gimmick with this Terminator is that it can actually split into two. There's a liquid metal outer layer that can separate from a metal, kind of robotic endoskeleton underneath. So it's kind of like the original Terminator and the T-1000 sort of combined. And they can separate into two separate Terminators and act independently. And then the Terminator goes to work, tries to kill Danny, but then Grace, the female soldier, she shows up, saves her. Then they go on the run, and we get a protracted chase scene that ends up on this bridge. And the Rev 9 has them cornered. And then Linda Hamilton, or Sarah Connor, shows up out of nowhere to help them. And then while she's taking care of the Terminator, they steal her vehicle and take off. Now then Grace starts to get weak. And we learn that although she's enhanced, she's a super soldier. She's kind of like the bionic man or bionic woman or whatever. But her metabolism has been increased, which can make her stronger and faster for short periods, But then once that's over, her metabolism kind of crashes, and then she needs various medications in order to keep going. So they go to a pharmacy, which they basically rob, to get the meds she needs. And when they leave the pharmacy, they go back out to their vehicle, and Sarah Connor is there waiting for them. How the hell did she know where they were? How did she find them? I don't know. It just makes about as much sense as anything else in this friggin' movie. So then they go on the road again, and they stay at a hotel, and then Sarah explains the whole Skynet plot and all of that. And it turns out that even though Skynet never got created, instead this other AI called Legion is made instead, and basically the same events play out. The AI turns against humanity. It starts World War III, and, there's a nuclear war. The Earth is devastated. Millions die, etc., etc. And then in the ruins, this AI creates an army of Terminators and other, robots to hunt down and wipe out the remaining humans, who form a resistance to fight against them. And that's when Grace tells Danny that, she's very important. She's destined to, basically the future depends upon her, and the future of the human race depends upon her, and all this stuff. And then Sarah says, oh, well, yeah, it's not you that's special. It's your womb that's special. You're going to give birth to this important soldier, this important man, who's going to save the future. Sarah also tells them that she was able to find them because periodically she gets these mysterious texts on her phone that give her coordinates, a time and a place where Terminators are going to appear. And then she goes there and she kills the Terminators when they appear. So that's how she was able to find them. Although it doesn't really add up because the Terminators appear, one just appears in this random place, the Grace does. And then the Terminator appeared where she lived. But then when Sarah Connor finds them, they're, on a highway bridge that's like many, many miles from there. So how did she get there? And then how did she find them at the pharmacy afterwards? I mean, again, don't even bother asking. Don't even bother asking. So then they set off to find the person that is sending the texts, but they have to cross the border into the States because they're in Mexico. Conveniently, Danny's uncle just happens to be a coyote who smuggles people across the border, so they go to him, and he is reluctant because he typically only smuggles Hispanics, not Caucasians like Sarah and Grace, and then he wonders if they're criminals. Then Danny just blurts it all out to him, telling him about the Terminators and about the future and all this other stuff. Surprise, he doesn't really believe it. And then Grace whips out a knife, and then she cuts a housefly in two in midair. And then that convinces him. Now, I mean, if it was going to make more sense, wouldn't you have maybe, she's been wounded, so you can see some of her artificial parts exposed if you show them. So why didn't he just do that? Or why didn't they just do that and show him that? Maybe that would be more convincing. I don't know, but, whatever. So they sneak across the border, and then they get caught by the Border Patrol. And then they get imprisoned. Now, the Rev 9 learns about where they are and then shows up to kill Danny. Then they get loose, and they get to a helicopter. And then they take off and get away just before the Rev 9's about to kill Danny. And then they fly to the place where the texts are coming from. And then the film enters a whole new level of stupid. It turns out that the texts are coming from the T-800 Terminator, the Arnold Terminator that killed John Connor all those years ago. After he killed John, he had no purpose, and so he decided to just settle down and have a family. And I am not even kidding about this. The Terminator, who now calls himself Carl, has a wife and an adopted son, who apparently have never noticed that he weighs like 500 pounds and that he doesn't eat or sleep or breathe or have a pulse or use the bathroom or, anything else that humans always do. Arnold's presence in this movie makes no sense at all. He's obviously only here because they felt, and with some justification, that you really can't have a Terminator film without him, so he's got to be there. But the fact that they had to come up with this ridiculous subplot to bring Arnie into the story shows that this film series is already on its last legs. It turns out that over time, the T-800, who calls himself Carl now, developed a conscience and now feels guilty about killing John, and has been sending these texts to Sarah so that she can show up when and wherever Terminators from the future show up and destroy them. He explains how this works, but I don't even remember the details. It didn't make any sense, just like everything else in this friggin' movie doesn't. They decide that they need an EMP device to defeat the Rev-9, and conveniently there's a military base nearby, and Sarah just happens to have a contact there who can get her the EMP because, of course, why not? They then meet with the contact, who is this African-American Air Force major. And when I first saw the guy, I thought, oh wow, this is going to be Miles Dyson's son. That makes perfect sense. And no, it's just some random guy. They never explain. I think his name was Reed, maybe? Major Reed? I don't remember. They never make any attempt to explain who this guy is, how he knows Sarah, and why he's willing to risk court-martial to steal these EMP devices and give them to her, even though they say repeatedly in the film that she is a known criminal and a known nutcase. So why is he doing this? Oh, who the hell knows? It would be nice if the filmmakers had bothered to consider these questions, but of course they didn't. Now, while they're making the exchange, the Rev-9 shows up, and then it chases them back to the military base, and then the good guys get on a cargo plane. I think it's a C-130, but I'm not sure. And then they fly away. And then Grace tells Danny that she doesn't just give birth to a hero in the future, that she is the hero that saves the future. Of course. Because this is all about, replacing the males with women at this point. And then we get a flash. Well, I guess for Grace it's a flashback. I don't know. Where we see Danny in the future. And how Grace as a young child first met Danny. And the whole scene is laughable. This girl, Natalia Reyes, who plays Danny, she's like 5'0", and she is not at all convincing as some badass fighter or a leader. She has a body like a child, and she's got this. I was just sitting there in the theater, shaking my head. To borrow a line from Farscape, she's not particularly strong or particularly fast or intelligent, or the least bit physically or spiritually imposing. She's just not at all convincing in this role at all. She is miscast. So the Rev-9 chases after them in another plane, and then crashes that plane into them, and then hops off of his plane onto their plane, and then gets inside, and then there's a fight inside the plane as it's crashing to the ground. Grace, Sarah, and Danny parachute out of the plane in a Humvee, which winds up landing in the water near the Hoover Dam. They escape and get inside the dam, and then a big final fight takes place inside the Hoover Dam. And Grace and Carl sacrifice themselves to protect Danny, and then Sarah and Danny ride off into the sunset, with Sarah obviously going to train Danny to be a soldier and setting up a whole new trilogy of films. Or so the makers of this thing wish, anyway. Okay, so let's talk about what's good in this movie. It was nice seeing Linda Hamilton again, and although this movie pretty much destroys her whole backstory, she's good in the movie. Mackenzie Davis, who plays Grace, is actually really good, I think. And it's too bad she's not in a better movie. I really liked her character, actually. Gabriel Luna, who plays the Rev-9, is fine. And Arnie is Arnie. He can do this stuff in his sleep, and he pretty much does. The real problem with this is that Natalia Reyes as Danny is just not at all believable. She looks like a kid, and when we see her in the future, she's not any bigger. So when she's holding guns, it looks ridiculous. It looks like a child with a gun. She'd be believable as a babysitter. Believable as a babysitter, maybe, I don't know, serving you your food at a restaurant, maybe something like that. As a badass soldier and military leader, no. It's just not credible. You know, I've got a message for Hollywood. Stop. Just stop. So many of the films and franchises that I grew up with and enjoyed are now just muddled train wrecks that make no sense due to, you know, just a parade of sequels and reboots that just make things worse. Stop making Terminator films. Stop making Alien films. Stop making Predator films. You suck at it. You remember in the 80s when they did all those crappy Jaws sequels? That's where these franchises are now. It's just gotten pathetic. Just stop it. Enough. And as far as the Terminator series is concerned, I think this is the one that we'll just do the series in. I don't think this movie I don't see this movie being successful, and I don't see anyone wanting to see more films starring Linda Hamilton and Natalia Reyes. Arnold is 72 and would probably be pushing 80 by the time another film got made. The only way this film series could continue is if they can improve the de-aging technology to the point where they can do a whole film with a young Arnold again. Then maybe it would work. Really, the series should never have gone past the second movie. It pretty much ended there. You know, one of the themes that underpin the first two films is the whole idea that there is no fate. No fate except what we make for ourselves. So the history isn't set. The history can be rewritten. But ever since the third film, we've been told again and again that no, actually, that's not true. There is fate, and it's inescapable. Or if you do change the future, it doesn't really matter, because then the whole thing will just play out again anyway, with the names changed. And as a result, this movie and the whole series is just pointless. You can choose, however. You are not fated to see this film, so don't. Or at least do what I did and don't give them your money. I bought a ticket to the Joker, and then I went and saw this film anyway. So if you're going to see this film, at least do that. Oh, okay. All right, I'm done. I'm done with it, and I'm done with this movie. So if you like this review, please let me know in the comments. And like this video, and please subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell for notifications, and share this video if you would, and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.